Hey, Sam here. This is the start of my devlogs for this new game that I'm developing. It's a real-time roguelike deck builder combat game in the vein of a cross between Slay the Spire and Street Fighter, I guess. Basically, I'm just going to be creating devlogs for this game as I build it, prototype it, and continue to make it better. So here's a story of what happened. So New Year's ticked over and I was recovering from a cold and had just worked all night on New Year's until like 7 in the morning at this nightclub in the city here in Montreal. I came up with this idea for a deck building video game that was played in real time. So kind of like Slay the Spire, but instead of planning out your moves, you have to react because you only have 5 cards in your hand and you just got to go, which I thought was really interesting. So with only a little game experience under my belt, it was this 2D platformer with limited movement, which I thought was a pretty novel idea at the time. I kind of got burnt out after a while. I found that optimizing the game too much or something took all the fun out of it, and it was fun when it was just kind of this like dumb, silly thing with assets that I got off the internet and whatever. So yeah, my original premise was a cooperative deck building game to play with your friends and my partner. I ended up changing it to a single player game though once I realized how much scope that needed and figured that a single player game might be more accessible to more people anyway. Card games like The Crew, Arkham Horror, and started playing Regicide recently, which really rules because you can just play it with a regular deck of cards, which I think is amazing for someone to come up with a game in this day and age that they're not trying to make money out of. It's great. Yeah, I wanted the combat to be real time to take away all the thinking between turns that deck builders usually have. Sometimes when I play Slay the Spire, I take, like maybe 5 minutes on a turn sometimes because you're in this really sticky situation and you've got to figure it out, which I really adore, but sometimes I feel like the runs take too long. I'd love for my game to have really snappy fights, kind of arcadey in a way that if you die, you can just restart straight away and just start battling the lower level enemies and work your way up to the bosses, like a roguelike. Alright, so this was the first prototype that I made. It has a little how to play screen, shows you what keys to press, a little deck editor so you can edit how your deck is to start. I quite like having more evades and double attacks and less blocks, but that's just a personal preference. And so then you can click play. So you got to use 1 to 5 to attack, block, all that jazz. When you evade successfully, the enemy will get stunned, which allows you more of a window to attack and use your double attack as well. So yeah, this prototype just has one enemy that I made to test. So yeah, when I first designed this, the idea for having all the real-time cards was really appealing to me. And the fact that you have to like shuffle your hand like that and having to like evade in a quick amount of time to get a counterattack was pretty appealing to me. As you can see at the top, there's a multiplier. So every time you attack or evade an enemy attack, you get 1 mult, which makes like all your subsequent attacks more powerful. And also this double attack you can only do after a successful attack. So if I try to do it, it doesn't let you do it, which I thought was cool. It's a way to double your damage, but it's a risk because you might draw it when you need a block or an evade or something like that, which I thought could make some really sticky and interesting deck building decisions. Like, do you want to go for more damage and use your double attack, or do you want to maybe trade that out for a block or an evade, where you can still build up your multiplier, but you're not going to be able to do as much damage, which I thought was a cool concept. But yeah, it's pretty basic here. I was basically just outlining, I made like health bars and then like the damage stuff, like the damage numbers that fall off the enemies. And so yeah, you have a deck and a discard which is tracked. The health potion is like a consumable thing. It has 2 eyes in this version, which is kind of funny. Bit of a typo. So yeah, you have a deck which you can draw cards from, and then once there's no cards, your slots start emptying. And then you can shuffle your discard into your deck by pressing N. But there's a delay, which I thought was really interesting because it leaves you vulnerable for an attack while you're shuffling your discard into your deck. So this was my first prototype, which was very basic, as you can see. But I really thought the concept was there. So over the next couple of weeks, I continued working hard at it, and I'll show you where I'm at right now. Okay, so now I'll show you how the game is going after maybe a week of work after that initial prototype. So if I run this here, we still have the edit deck thing, which is basically unchanged. There's now a save and a load button, which allows you to save what floor you got up to and your current deck, which I thought might be cool in the future if people are getting really far and they want to stop. And it's also an interesting way to learn how to code in Godot, which I really like as an engine. The documentation is amazing and the community's pretty good. Like, there's an article on the internet for basically everything that you could think of, which is great. So yeah, I'm going to click play and show you how the game works. So, as you can see, the game is a bit more advanced than it was in the first prototype. So I added the timeout for the multiplier because I found that I was waiting for the enemies to attack me, to parry them, or to react to them, where I wanted the player to have a bit more agency and a bit more... I just wanted the player to be more aggressive. I wanted to play more aggressively, so I wanted to force something that made you not just wait for the enemy to attack you, kind of like in Arkham Asylum, like in the Batman games, how you're just kind of waiting for the enemy to attack you and then you strike, or the Assassin's Creed games, same thing. I also added this foe offers you a card thing, so each enemy has their own moveset. And when you defeat them, you get a chance to get one of their cards, which I'll show you in a little bit. So I'm just going to decline this and then go to the next battle. So here you see I cancelled my animation by playing a card, which is pretty important for something that's this quick in pace, to be able to maybe cancel your attack because the enemy has started attacking. So you could see with this enemy that it has 3 attacks. It will do 1 swing, 2 swings, which is the double attack, kind of like what the player has, and also like a swinging thing that is a block. Currently, I'm just using assets that I could find for free on the internet, but in the future, I am planning to implement my own sprites, graphics, all that jazz. I've actually started working on some sprites, which I can show you later in the video. So this enemy has a fireball, which is like unparryable. So to get through it, you have to actually attack them before they attack you. Which I found is a really interesting choice as a player, because in the first few enemies, you're kind of waiting for them to attack you, and hovering your hand over like the parry button, or like wherever a parry or a block is. But it's interesting that the enemy could do something that you need to attack to counter, which again is something that I thought forced the player to be a bit more aggressive. So I'll just beat this enemy really quickly. Okay, so this foe offers you a double attack because it's part of their repertoire. They can also offer you a fireball, which is cool. And I'll show that after I've defeated all the enemies. I'll show you all the attacks that they can give you. So this enemy's special attack is that it phases out, which it's basically a parry for the enemy, which allows them to block all attacks for 3 seconds and is a way for them to counteract you just building up a crazy multiplier. On the flip side, for them, it makes them vulnerable because you can wait or shuffle or take your time while they're phasing out, to get prepped to attack them again, which I thought was, again, made some interesting decisions. For this final enemy, I really wanted someone that could add trash to your deck. So I thought it would be funny if they added literal trash. Yeah, so this enemy has a similar attack to the fireball, but instead of something that does damage and stuns you, it adds trash, as you could see that we're in slot number 3 just there. The same concept as the fireball. When the enemy's attacking, you want to be attacking them as opposed to being on the defensive and parrying all the time, which I think it means you can't always be waiting to parry the enemy, which I like. So that's all the enemies. I'm gonna edit my deck so that I can show you all of the cards. So here are all the moves that you can do. So there's the Glassum one, which puts trash in your deck, but is a really powerful move. There's the phase out move. And then there's the fireball. So yeah, currently the animations of the player are just using the enemy animations. Part of me likes this thematically, as you're absorbing the power from your enemy, taking their powers and then using that going forward. I'm not sure how that would look with sprites that I'm gonna draw, but we'll see. I actually started working on a player sprite in this test battle. It's kind of based on the samurai, but it's really just it's kind of cute. I can show you what that looks like. It's like, I feel like the sword hit has a lot of chutzpah, like just like it feels very weighty, which is cool. I like that. Okay, so here we are in Sprite, which is a software for doing pixel art primarily, where I've made the attack animation and a couple of other ones. It's kind of crude, but it's kind of funny. I like it. Like it's like the eyes are closing, like I'm really aggressively attacking right now, which I like. This took me way longer than I'd like to admit to figure this out. I followed this really, it wasn't really a tutorial, but it was a video on someone designing a samurai, which I originally thought was really cool, but I feel like the person who designed that also designed this game called Shogun Showdown, and I think the art styles would be way too similar. But yeah, I started looking at some references, like this one, which is from a video game called Bleach, and how like the swipes look really I don't know, they look awesome, honestly, and how there's like a couple of build up ones and then it's just like wow, like it just goes. So it's like build up, wow, you know, which I think is cool. And then I made an idle sprite, which is just, you know, hanging out, waiting around, where I just kind of move these like flare pants around and move the body and the sword and the head kind of bobbing up and down, like, yo, we waiting. And then I made this block one as well, which I wasn't super happy with, but it's kind of like the other one, just kind of waiting around. Yeah, I'd really like to be able to just make better sprites for the characters. Like, I'm putting quite a bit of work into this one, and I'm not even sure if it's going to be the one that I use in the final game, but yeah, I think using pre-made graphics kind of cheapens it a little bit. Yeah, so going forward, I'd love to be able to make my game a bit more me, a bit more unique. So I'm trying to move away from using pre-made assets that are just free on the internet. I want to make it feel like mine, and I think that doing the animations like this will help me make it mine. It's just something that I'm not currently very skilled at, so drawing these animations by hand is very time consuming. I'm currently not working that much, and it's winter and really nice to stay inside here, but I feel that to move the game forward quicker, it would be better to just keep using pre-made assets. But I feel like I've kind of reached a point in the development where the pre-made assets aren't allowing me to realize my actual vision. So yep, I think I'm just going to be learning how to make cool character sprites in Sprite for the next month. I'd also like to design a boss or two to make it feel like the player's getting stronger, not just to defeat more powerful mobs, but to defeat bosses that have a unique moveset, which I'm looking forward to. I'd also like to have more cards and enemies for the player to interact with and make it feel a bit more like a roguelike, in the way that they can be randomly spawned in. Well, I've already figured out how to randomly spawn in the enemies, but to make their health get a bit stronger when you get a bit stronger. Let's see how this looks, shall we? Oh, whack. It's really satisfying to double attack. Nice. It's not that elegant, but it's cool. It's also just nice to learn how to animate. It's a really interesting concept, and I like it. So yeah, hopefully I'll be able to... Well, in the future you'll be able to catch up and see if I've made any significant changes, but that's all for now. Have a good one. Ciao.